Hello. Oh, that's nice. Such a wonderful crowd. I must say, it's been a long time, very long time since I've been back to Penang. But I must say, the energy I see here is fantastic. Wouldn't you say that? Yeah? And I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the speakers and the performances. I think they are top notch. Shall we give them all a round of applause? Yeah? Yeah, I'm trying to stall for time because they need to set my thing up. Hang on a minute. I'll adjust that later. Anyway, before we get started, I'd like to kind of know the kind of people that we're talking to. Can I find out how many of you guys are still students? Raise your hand. Whoa, impressive. How many I guess the rest are working, right? Anyone retired? Awesome. You see, it's great that people that are retired are still coming and furthering themselves with more knowledge and education, because you never stop learning, do you, right? So I think that's a good start. Anyway, creative innovation on a budget. That was not the title we started with. In fact, this title we started with, right, was suggested by Winston, where art and technology have sex. I didn't want to confuse you with online porn, so this is the title we're sticking to, okay? So anyway, today I guess you understand the topic is ideas, right? Ideas are fantastic, right? With ideas, you can virtually do anything. In fact, I believe it was Walt Disney that says, if you can dream it, you can do it. Isn't that fantastic? Do you agree with that? No, I don't. Let me tell you why. Yes, an idea is fantastic. You're motivated. You got great ideas. You can change the world. But guess what? How are you going to do it? You need some help. You need some money, right? Any great ideas is going to cost you something. So you need some money to get you started. You know, you're probably going to need some time. In order to really cultivate an idea and make it to a reality, you got to spend some time with it. You got to develop it. You know, you're going to fail sometimes, but you're going to succeed. And you're going to learn a lot of problems along the way. And of course, you need resources. When I talk about resources, I'm talking about hardware, software, expertise, people to support you in what you do. You need all these things. And with your fantastic, life-changing, world-inspiring idea, you will create awesomeness. Right. Now, how often is that? Very rare. Now, this is probably the sad truth, right? You have a brilliant idea. You have no money. You have no time. And you have no resources. So what happens? You are like a student. Now, in my short brief, there's a few things that it did not mention. One thing it did not mention is that actually I am the course director for a local college in KL. The college is the Dasein Academy of Arts. And actually, I brought some of my students here, which they are going to do something for you later. And my students have the terrible position of having me as their lecturer. It's really terrible because I have very unrealistic expectations. I go up to them every day and I say, impress me. You know, it's not easy to impress me. I have more than 16 years of technological and multimedia experience. I have the internet at my disposal, you know. Google is my best friend, okay? I have seen virtually hours and hours of YouTube every day. You can't impress me that easily. But that's their problem, not mine, okay? So what's the solution? Well, simple. My students, they go out, they have a great idea. I got this great idea. But I've got no money, I got no time, I got no resources. I'm a student, I'm poor. Deal with it, right? So what do? They get resourceful. Now, resourceful is basically the ability to take a skill and an idea and promptly deliver a solution for it. That's being resourceful, okay? So my students take this great idea, they apply a bit of resourcefulness, maybe bribing me might help, but not really, okay? And then they have the potential of awesomeness, right? They haven't created awesomeness yet. They might create awesomeness, we don't know, okay? Now, I know you all look at me, whew, that's easy, right? We just take a great idea, we add a bit of resourcefulness, we have the potential of awesomeness. Sounds easy, right? Believe you can, and you're halfway there. That's what the American president, Theodore Roosevelt, said, right? So, if you believe you can, you're 50% way there. Other 50%, let's bribe Lionel. Okay? Wow, that's easy, huh? Yeah, so why doesn't everyone just do it? Right? Why don't they just bribe Lionel? Because Lionel is expensive, that's why. Okay? But there's a more important reason. Why people don't just be resourceful. Can't we just be resourceful every day? No. Why? Is because of this. Because of the compromise. When you are resourceful, you are going to sacrifice something. You're going to give something up. Let me repeat it again. It's because of the compromise. Anytime you're resourceful, you must sacrifice something. Either your time, your money, your expertise, your failures, your ego, whatever you think about it. You're going to have to give something up. Your pride, maybe, right? But you will give something up because of being resourceful. And being too resourceful, sometimes you may even lose the initial idea. You may lose the initial message. You may be so resourceful that your original idea is not even the same anymore. But that's part of learning, right? So, where do we draw a line? Where do we say we can't be that resourceful anymore? Okay? And is there anything wrong with being resourceful? Well, let me show you this video, and then I'll talk a bit about it.
I look at some of the work we do, and I just don't know how we do it. You know, to me, it's just magic. The work that goes into the Tiger or some of the other things we do, it's beyond belief.
Life of Pi is the most rewarding experience I've had since I started working in visual effects.
Here we are demonstrably doing the best work in the industry and slamming into a wall. So the night of the Oscars, what a mess.
You know, 2012 was a great year for movies. Hollywood shattered box office records with $10.8 billion in domestic sales. In fact, studio accountants have never had to work harder to prove nothing made a profit. As we all know, winning an Oscar guarantees a long, successful career in the industry.
It was a Friday that they told us that our paychecks were going to be delayed.
We've come close to hitting a wall in the past, but I think we've come close enough times that there was this sense of things will be okay. And this time was different.
It was like a perfect storm of crap happening all at the same time that we could not sustain. So we ended up in bankruptcy.
Rhythm & Hughes isn't the only effects house where success has failed to avert crisis. Given these challenges, this is an emotional and worrying time for visual effects artists.
Unfortunate is not a strong enough word. However, look at what it did. It galvanized an entire industry.
It gelled the entire VFX community into being horrifically pissed off at how they were being treated.
It's a catalyst for the change in this industry that's going to put it in the right direction. A rebirth for visual effects.
Okay, now that is actually a trailer for a documentary that's going to be coming out in a few days' time on the internet for free. So if you want to see further, you can catch it online on YouTube in a few days' time. The reason I showed this is because of one very simple thing. How many of you guys actually have heard of Rhythm & Hughes before watching this? Not bad, a few of you. Now, for those that haven't, how many of you guys have heard of Avengers, the movie? Life of Pi? X-Men? Thor? Incredible Hulk? Yeah, this is the special effects house that did it all. They are not a new special effects house. In fact, they've been around since up to 1997, I think maybe a bit earlier, but they went bankrupt. The day they won an Oscar for the Life of Pi, they announced their bankruptcy. Millions of dollars were made for that movie. But this special effects house that generated more than 50% of the entire movie went bankrupt. There's something wrong. These are the top players in the industry for special effects. Now, we were all told, if you can do your job well, you don't ever have to worry. Be passionate. Just follow your passion. Do something well, and it will show you the way. That's what these people did. But it didn't show them the way. It showed them the door. Next day, when they announced the Oscars, the owner of Rhythm Hughes, when he accepted his Oscar, he was talking about what happened in the industry and how it was so unfair that these people were laid off. Now, if you're wondering what happened, basically it's like this. We designers are generally underappreciated. We all know that. But how underappreciated it's like this. When Rhythm and Hughes won the Oscars, Ang Lee, who is the director of Life of Pi, thanked virtually everybody. I mean, virtually everybody. It was a long list, except them. The other people that created more than 50% of the show, they were not thanked. And you are wondering, but how could they lose money? How could someone making such amazing thing lose money? It's because of this. It's very easy as a non-designer to say, well, just change the color. Could you make the tiger a little bit more fluffy? You know? Get him a bit more wet. You know? Create something awesome. You know? That's what I do my students all the time. Create something awesome, right? But it's easy to say that, but how do you do it? Who pays for it? Apparently they did. All the extra hours it took to make the tiger more fluffy, add more water, make it more wet, whatever, someone had to pay for it, the extra times, the extra man hours. But the deadline was never changed. It was a brutal deadline. They had to outsource, they had to hire more people, and they had to compromise. What they compromised was their money that they made. Okay? Now, how do we prevent this? Well, the first thing we have to accept is the reality. Let us face the reality that ideas and passion will only get you so far. You gotta face the reality that sometimes you need a little bit more. So, what I do to my students is that I challenge them. I challenge them every day to basically have a nightmare of a time. I challenge them to fail, not to succeed. Because the reality is that life is a bit tough. We cannot live in the clouds. We cannot think that things will work. We have to get down to reality and know that things will happen. My favorite quote. Shit happens, deal with it, okay? This happened in every form of life. In fact, it just happened to me recently. 1 hour before I was supposed to come here, my specs broke. It just snapped as I was driving here, okay? Luckily, with a bit of resourcefulness and quite a bit of money, I went and got a new specs made in time. Otherwise, I would be like our dear friend, the tapir. You know? So, deal with it, okay? Problems always happen. Life is not easy. We have to stop telling kids, don't worry, it'll be okay, because it won't. When my father and my grandfather, when they came here, life was very tough for them. So they want to make my life much easier. So they gave me the best education. They gave me the best resources. They gave me everything that was best. In fact, I went to some Ivy League schools, which were awesome. But guess what? I didn't appreciate it. Okay? I didn't appreciate it because I was always living in an Ivy League school. I only appreciated it when I was not in an Ivy League school. I only appreciated when I saw how bad education could be. When I was the teacher of that education system and I saw the problems that we face. So I decided to do something about it, okay? If you're not failing every now and again, it's a sign you're not doing anything very innovative. That was what the actor Woody Allen said. And that's what we need. We need innovation. We need to teach our people to be more innovative. So I challenge traditional education. What conventional education teaches is this. A is excellent, B is good, C is average, D is poor, and F is fail, right? But how do you grade design? How do you judge that one design is better than another? How can you say that someone has failed something. If we all don't fail, how do we learn? Isn't life about failing and learning? Why is failing such a bad thing? So I decided to stop with education and start with innovation. I decided to challenge my students and ask them to do things that they've never done before. So a few of the things that we did was this. I set up little mini projects for my students to do with very little resources, very little ideas, and I virtually didn't teach them anything. I said, hey, this looks cool, let's do it. Now, the only thing that they've got going for them is they don't have the money, we don't have a lot of resources in our school, but what we do have is I will be by their side. Me and my fellow colleagues will be there by their side if they need us. We will learn together, we'll fail together. In fact, most of this stuff we've never done it ourselves. So how can I teach someone something I don't know? I don't. I just say, impress me and let's do it together and fail together. So one of the first things we did was we saw this cool holographic thing, and it says, hey, let's take it a step further. Let's make a real hologram of a band in 360 degrees. In that time, we did this, which was about 4 weeks. My students had to learn how to shoot a video, how to kind of play a music, how to run a camera system, how to edit it in a 460 degree mode and build their own hologram out of 100 ringgit. Okay? So this is them shooting a video, and that was the final hologram. And then we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we can hack into a Wii and create our own Wii? Wouldn't it be cool if we can build our own Wii? So we decided to take a Wii remote, because we couldn't build a Wii remote, but we could build the software. So we interfaced the Wii remote to our computer, and we controlled it. So basically, when you move here, what it shows is an outline of a city. But as you move the Wii remote, it will reveal an animated city underneath, beaming with life, the future. So, and this was done also in less than 4 weeks. No experience before that. So I tried to take it a step further. I pushed my students even harder. I said, hey, look, I'll give you guys a challenge. I picked 5 designers, okay, who have very little to almost no programming experience. I taught them a bit of code, and I said, okay, you guys have 5 days. I want you to create 5 games for me based on 5 different concepts. So these 5 students spent the next 5 days stressed out, blood, sweat, and tears, but they did it. They made 5 different games. One of the games was that it would show a building, and you scream, help! And the fire will dissipate, the louder you shout. So the longer you shout, it will vanish. Another student made a game where when you run, a car will go, and the faster you run, the car will move faster before a plane bombs it, okay? Another student also, based on your notes, like, oh, right? They will have a balloon that will collect stars, okay? Another student had this one, which was a competition where if one guy shouts, this guy will push the wall. When the guy moves, it will push the other wall back. So it's a battle, it's a competition, okay? So they did that in 5 days. Design, concept, program, innovate the thing in whole 5 days, okay? And we also had to figure out how to make that interface box ourselves. So then we took it a bit further. We did a little bit bigger exhibition, and we said, hey, let's use a concept. Let's use an idea. What is the message you guys want to bring out? What do you think could help people? So they came up with this brilliant concept. Let's talk about the rubbish we generate today. Today, millions of tons of rubbish is generated. We are a very wasteful race. We destroy a lot of things. We do not conserve. But if I tell you, hey, don't waste so much, would you stop wasting? You probably ignore it. You wouldn't even remember it. Like, yeah, we've seen those like, PSA ads on the cinema and all that, right? So what they did instead was that they wanted to build an art exhibition to showcase the wastage. So they constructed a gigantic cage, which was 2 meters cubed. And we had to figure a way to rig the projector. So we used a mirror, okay? And so the projector bounced off the mirror, shine on the floor, and we had to figure out how to rig it up. Then they had to look at a city, and they studied the city. They studied the industrial areas, they studied the residential areas, they studied the commercial areas, how a city is formed, what's constructed, and they built a 2 meter square floor pan, and each one of this is hand-cut strips of paper. Thousands of these white things they were cutting by hand. Yes, I make it really tough for them. They had to make gravel, so they had to get sand, put it there, spray paint it so it looks black. You know, they had problems, it wouldn't stick, they had tremendous problems, but they had to figure a solution for it. Then eventually they built this city out of paper. Now, they don't know how to construct paper. They're not expert paper crafts. So I said, I don't care. Figure it out. So we figured out. We did research. We looked at how paper was constructed, and we looked at buildings. And not just did we have to construct the buildings to match the cityscape, how you would plan a residential to a commercial, or how you put the industrial to the commercial area. We also looked at the scale. How do you build everything to scale? You've noticed they also have a bus, cars, and stuff like that. So they built an entire city to represent this square footage. Then they hang the city upside down and they lit it, okay? Because they can, because I said I wasn't impressed enough. So they had to lit it up for me. And I said, the room looks empty, so they had to stick a silhouette and make it glow, because I said it just looks silly if it was just that 2-meter square area. So they had to figure that out. Then, after building all this and constructing this, they showed the rubbish being dropped down. And I said, yeah, rubbish falling down, that's not very impressive. Come on, where's the technology in that? So they hooked up several things. They hooked up a piece of paper to the computer, they hooked up a carrot, they hooked up plastic, water, and metal. Now, the paper represents the amount of wastage of paper that was done. The carrot represents all the organic wastes. The plastic is the amount of plastic waste and harm. The water is obviously how much wasted water we have. And metal is how much metal we waste. And then they did a presentation that was beamed down. So as you touch it, it will broadcast the presentation to give you all the facts. And that had to be done in 4 weeks. With, I think, a budget of, I think it was less than 5 to 800, I can't remember, okay? So then I said, okay, look, let's do something more impressive, okay? Our college is not a big college. We are actually a very small college. We don't have a big budget. We don't have a lot of resources, okay? So we decide to exploit students because they're wonderful to exploit, right? And we say, hey, we got this beautiful pillar. Please decorate it for us, okay? But impress me. So this is what they did.
Dasein gave us an opportunity to beautify the pillar in gallery.
We wanted to come up with the concept that will capture people's attention but not distracted from a wonderful exhibit.
It has to be interactive,
meaningful, fun, and something nobody has seen before.
We wanted something that would connect people together.
We were finally inspired by the piano.
This simple object is not just beautiful to look at. It connects people together, brings out the emotion, feelings, and memories.
We wanted to create something that will have the same impact.
So we decided to make our own piano.
During the execution, we thought it would be simple.
But we encountered numerous problems which required us to redo our project several times.
Finally, we are now proud to present to you our piano-inspired artwork called Connects.
They spent hundreds of man-hours, but they only had 2 to 3 weeks to execute it. Okay? So everything from concept to ideas to execution was done in 2 to 3 weeks. And then finally, my last thing I want to show you was this work. Let me show it to you first, and I'll explain it. So, 4 weeks as well, my students had to learn about 3D projection mapping. 3D projection mapping is the ability to project something on a 3D based object. But we want to take it further. So they built a room that can sense your emotion. If you are happy, it will show a randomized happy animation. If you're sad, it will detect that, it will show a sad animation. When you're calm, it will detect that. And when you're angry, it will also detect that. Not just will the animation match, but they also wrote multiple songs to choreograph with this. So as it becomes happy, the song will slowly change to a happy song. When you're sad, it will slowly change to a sad song. When you're angry, it becomes a very angry song. All of this was not taught by our normal curriculum because, let's face it, there is only so much we can teach. These were inspiration and innovations that we gave to our students that we tell them, be resourceful. Find out your solutions. Because in reality, you don't have all the time you want, you don't have all the money you want, and you don't have all the resources you want. You gotta make do with the best of it. Because basically, shit happens. You gotta deal with it. Okay? So, were we innovative, resourceful, smart? I don't know. The only thing I can tell you was this. At the end of all these projects, my students probably experienced more and had more fun doing these small projects than they did their assignments. Okay? Now, before I let you go, I know I went way over my time limit, but I hope I can ask my students to give you a short performance. Would that be okay? Okay? Now, coming up. Now, I gotta pre-warn you, this performance you're seeing, they actually didn't rehearse much because I just told them like a very short time ago and it says, hey, wouldn't it be great since you're all here, do something. So this was something that they hacked together to show you what they could do in, let's say, I think they spent like a day on this. Okay? Grab your things. Before we start, let me introduce you. This is Evelyn. This is Kathy. This is Sukyin. She's not a student. She's my colleague. This is Terrence, and this is CY. Okay. They are warming up first. Hang on. See, like musicians, they have to tune. Okay? All right, give it a roll. Because they didn't want to speak, I had to force them to do something, you know. All right, with that, I'd like to thank you all very much. Sorry to take up so much time.